No one saw this coming, not the investors, not the economists, and not even the global banks who thought they had their systems under control. Today, October 1925, the world woke up to a financial earthquake that began quietly in Hanoi and spread like wildfire across every continent. The Vietnamese dong, long seen as one of the undervalued currencies on the planet, has suddenly and officially skyrocketed in value overnight. Screens in trading floors from Singapore to New York lit up like Christmas trees as traders struggled to process what had just happened. The revaluation is being described as one of the most historic and shocking moments in modern economic history. And as the dust settles, one question is echoing across every financial circle. What does this mean for global markets? And could Vietnam's bold move inspire other nations, including Iraq, to follow the same path? Stay tuned, because what you're about to hear changes everything. It all began early this morning in Vietnam, just before sunrise. Most people were still asleep when an unexpected government announcement hit every major news outlet and digital platform. The Ministry of Finance confirmed that after years of preparation, consultations, and quiet discussions behind closed doors, the Vietnamese dong had been officially revalued to reflect what the government called the nation's true economic strength. Within minutes, global currency models went into overdrive. For decades, one US dollar was worth over 23,000 Vietnamese dong. But now, that figure has shifted dramatically. The new rate places Vietnam's currency at levels experts are calling financially revolutionary. The move shocked financial institutions worldwide, with major trading apps freezing temporarily due to the massive influx of data and transactions. The revaluation didn't just surprise, it stunned the global system. Inside Vietnam, the reaction was immediate and emotional. Crowds gathered outside major banks in Hanoi and Ho Chi Minh City, cheering, crying, and recording the moment on their phones as exchange rates updated in real time. For millions of Vietnamese citizens who had saved dong for years, this was more than just a number. It was a dream come true. "I can't believe it," said one woman, wiping tears from her eyes. "My family has held on to dong for decades, and today it feels like our patience has finally paid off." Across social media, the atmosphere was electric. Hashtags like Heavy Rising and Fade Dong Revaluation started trending globally. The people of Vietnam saw this as a symbol of national pride, a statement that their economy was no longer undervalued, and their hard work was finally being recognized on the world stage. Meanwhile, across Asia's financial hubs, in Singapore, Tokyo, Seoul, and Hong Kong, trading desks erupted into controlled chaos. Brokers shouted orders, analysts ran simulations, and emergency meetings were called at lightning speed. Within hours, the shockwaves reached Wall Street, where U.S. investors scrambled to adjust portfolios. Market experts compared the then to the early 2000s, when China made its landmark currency adjustments that reshaped the global economy. But this, they say, feels even bigger. Vietnam's economy has been quietly growing for over a decade, fueled by manufacturing technology and foreign investments from the United States, Japan, and South Korea. Yet through it all, the dong had remained artificially low, a move that supported exports but masked the country's true economic potential. That era has officially ended. Behind the scenes, sources suggest this decision wasn't made overnight. Insiders report months of high-level talks between Vietnam's central bank, international financial advisors, and representatives from major institutions like the IMF and World Bank. The goal was clear: to position Vietnam as a financially independent powerhouse, capable of competing with regional giants like China and South Korea. One analyst described it as declaration of economic independence. Reports indicate that discussions about revaluation had been ongoing since mid-2024, but the timing was carefully chosen to coincide with major shifts in global markets, rising energy costs in Europe, slow growth in China, and instability in several emerging economies. Vietnam saw a strategic opening and it took it decisively. As the news spread, the global response ranged from shock to cautious optimism. Financial institutions in the US and Europe quickly issued statements acknowledging the move, while urging stability in trading. But traders and speculators weren't waiting for official comments. Within hours, currency exchange platforms saw record traffic, with investors rushing to buy or trade dong. Some platforms even went offline temporarily due to overwhelming demand. In several Asian cities, people lined up outside exchange offices hoping to benefit from the new rates. "It's chaos," said one exchange manager in Singapore. "Everyone wants dong now, everyone." The surge was so strong that central banks in several countries temporarily paused transactions involving the Vietnamese currency to prevent market overload. For the average Vietnamese citizen, however, this moment is deeply personal. For years, they've watched their nation rise as one of Southeast Asia's manufacturing leaders, producing everything from smartphones to automobiles. Yet their currency never reflected that strength. Today, that has changed. Overnight, their savings carry new weight, their salaries have new value, and their national pride has reached new heights. Economists say the revaluation could lift millions into a stronger middle class, boosting domestic spending and consumer confidence. But they also warn that challenges lie ahead, particularly for exporters who may now face higher production costs. Still, the overall sentiment inside Vietnam is clear: the nation feels reborn economically. Global analysts are calling this event one of the most significant currency shifts since the Japanese yen's reconstruction after World War II. Vietnam's decision is being compared to historic moments like Kuwait's dinar recovery and China's economic awakening. But there's a unique difference. This was not a recovery from crisis or war. This was a proactive move, a statement of confidence, unity, and national progress. Vietnam didn't wait for the world to validate it. It acted on its own terms. And that confidence is what has investors, economists, and political leaders talking tonight. Could this inspire a wave of similar revaluations in other nations that have long been undervalued? Many are already pointing to rise a country that could take a similar path one day. In Iraq, the news of Vietnam's revaluation has stirred strong conversations among dinar holders and financial watchers. The parallel is impossible to ignore. Just as Vietnam maintained an artificially low currency for decades to support exports, Iraq's dinar has also remained undervalued compared to its true economic potential. The question now circulating in online investment communities is, if Vietnam can do it, could Iraq be next? Analysts suggest that while Iraq's economic and political landscape is different, the global trend toward currency realignment could encourage similar moves in the coming years. For many dinar investors, Vietnam's success story serves as both inspiration and validation that long-term patience in undervalued currencies can pay off in extraordinary ways. Vietnam's prime minister addressed the nation in a televised speech that was both calm and powerful. "Today," he said, "will mark a historic milestone in our nation's journey. Our currency now reflects who we are: strong, resilient, and independent." His words resonated deeply across the country. For many, it wasn't just about financial gain. It was about recognition that Vietnam's hard work, discipline, and economic vision have finally paid off. The Prime Minister emphasized that this move was not a sudden gift, but the result of decades of stability and strategic growth. His speech ended with a promise to maintain economic discipline and ensure that Vietnam's rise would benefit every citizen, not just the elite. The immediate effects of the revaluation are already being felt. Oil and gold prices have seen quick fluctuations as traders shift funds into safer assets. The US dollar, which has dominated for decades, dipped slightly against a basket of Asian currencies following the news. Major corporations with factories in Vietnam are now re-evaluating their contracts, payrolls, and investment strategies. Tech giants and manufacturers that relied on Vietnam's low-cost production are facing a new reality, one where Vietnam's workforce earns more, and its currency carries real weight in global transactions. This shift could trigger changes in supply chains across Asia, forcing other nations to adapt or risk losing their competitive edge. Financial experts say the Vietnam could usher in a new era of economic power for Vietnam. By aligning its currency closer to true market value, Vietnam positions itself as a credible and confident global player. Foreign investors who once viewed Vietnam as a low-cost manufacturing hub now see it as a rising financial center. Banks and hedge funds are already preparing to open new offices in Hanoi and Ho Chi Minh City to manage growing financial opportunities. For Vietnam's younger generation, this moment could define their economic future, one where their nation stands tall beside regional powers, no longer in the shadow of others, but as an equal. Still, with great power comes great responsibility. Economists are warning of short-term volatility as global markets adjust to this sudden change. Exporters may struggle initially as the cost of Vietnamese goods rises abroad. Inflation could rise if domestic prices adjust too quickly. The government has already announced that it will monitor the markets closely and intervene if necessary to maintain balance. However, experts also note that Vietnam has one of the strongest fiscal positions in the region, with robust reserves and steady trade surpluses. In other words, the country is ready to handle the turbulence. This isn't a reckless move, said one international analyst. This is a calculated step by a nation that knows exactly what it's doing. What makes this moment so fascinating is how global psychology has shifted overnight. For decades, the Vietnamese dong was treated as an afterthought, a currency of little global consequence. But now, it's front-page news everywhere. From Bloomberg to readers, from YouTube finance channels to TikTok, everyone is talking about Vietnam. Investors who once dismissed it as a minor player are now scrambling to understand how this move will reshape the international monetary system. The revaluation is also being seen as a symbolic challenge to old economic hierarchies, a reminder that emerging nations are no longer waiting for permission to rise. They're taking their place at the table. Throughout the day, financial chat rooms, social media groups, and Telegram channels have exploded with theories and reactions. Some claim Western banks knew about this move in advance. Others believe this is the start of a broader global currency shift, a domino effect that could see other undervalued nations follow suit. While most of these theories remain unconfirmed, what's undeniable is that Vietnam's move has reignited global conversations about fairness in the financial system. For too long, smaller nations have felt constrained by the dominance of major currencies. Today, Vietnam has shown that courage and planning can break that mold. By evening, trading activity remained at record highs. Lines formed outside currency exchanges in Manila, Kuala Lumpur, and Bangkok as people rushed to convert or hold dong. Many exchange platforms imposed temporary limits, while others suspended trades until new rates were stabilized. The IMF and World Bank released cautious statements acknowledging Vietnam's decision while urging global coordination to prevent volatility. But for ordinary citizens in Vietnam, those warnings meant little. Their focus was on their newfound economic strength, a feeling many described as dream turned into reality. For them, the revaluation isn't just about numbers on a screen, it's about pride, hope, and a sense of belonging in the modern financial world. As global attention remains fixed on Vietnam, experts predict that the coming weeks will reveal how deep this transformation truly goes. Will this new valuation hold steady? Will it strengthen Vietnam's trade position or test it? How will major economies respond? Already, whispers are emerging that neighboring nations may consider similar evaluations to maintain competitiveness. The global economy may be entering a new chapter, one defined not by dominance but by recalibration. And as countries like Iraq observe closely, the lesson is clear: preparation, patience, and national unity can one day rewrite your financial destiny. So, as night falls across Vietnam, the world watches a nation rise into a new era of confidence and prosperity. The dong, once dismissed and overlooked, has now become a symbol of courage and transformation. For global investors, it's a wake-up call. For the Vietnamese people, it's a moment of pride, and for countries like Iraq, it's a reminder that great change often comes quietly until the day it doesn't. This is not just a financial story. It's a story of vision, resilience, and a country daring to take control of its destiny. Stay tuned right here on Iraqi Dinar News for the latest updates as this historic event continues to unfold. Because if this is any sign of what's coming, the global financial system may never look the same again.